Shalom Aleichem, sweetest friends. This is so exciting. We are continuing our series of Mussar Vaadim. It's too good. It's like life. Hachzik Mussar al Terev, says Shlomo Melech Alav Hashalom. Don't let go. Hold on tight, because it's your life. That's what he says. So we've been discussing Emes. The first year, we spoke about people who tell white lies. They go in the ways of sheker, and they get nothing out of it. The person should stay far away from that. Very far. And now we continue. Again, this is based on the Torah of Moreinu Rabbeinu, Chaim Friedlander, the Mashgiach and Ponovich. So Rabbeinu Yoina enumerates the various classes of liars. So here he adds a definition on a type of sheker that has no benefit to a person, as we've been discussing. V'yesha noshim yachlifu miktsas hadvorim asher shamu bivli das ki lo yashisu libam lachkor be'eis shoyim. First, Rabbeinu Yonah spoke about people that talk sheker on purpose without any benefit, but they love sheker. Now he adds that there are people who say Emes, but they're not careful about what they say. They mix up certain things. They're not accurate, that they heard without noticing, without paying attention. They weren't listening too well. Because why? Why is that? They don't pay attention to investigate at the time that they heard. When they heard the Maisa that about which they are talking, B'shas Hashmiya, lo ikpidu v'lo chakru al diukam shel dvarim. They weren't careful to notice exactly what was said, and then they absorbed the information in an inaccurate way, and then afterwards they tell it weiter, and they're also not accurate. Because it didn't go in right, it doesn't come out right. Gam zot midah ra'ah. This is also an evil midah, says Rabbeinu Yoina in the Shari Tshuva. Shari Tshuva is a book, millions of dollars on sale. Why is it a bad midah? Because Shlomo Melech Alav Hashalom said in the book of Proverbs in chapter 21, verse 25, First King Solomon says, Eid kizovim yoived, a false witness will perish. We spoke about that pasuk. V'ish shoimeya lanetzach yidaber, and a man who listens will speak for eternity. Perush ish noisein leiv lishmoa, when a man pays attention to hear, ulahazin, and to listen. Ad tchunas hadvarim asher yidabru beoznov leman yisaper oisamam nochoin v'lo yimtza befiv lashon tarmis lanetzach yidaber ki yovu bnei adam lishmoa dvorov. A person who's careful when he listens, in order that he should speak it, repeat it in an accurate way, and he is not speaking falsehood, he will speak for eternity, because people are going to love listening to him. Why? Because he speaks the truth. They're not going to say, what are you talking for? You're not saying, you're fabricating this information. This is fake news. This isn't honest. No. This guy is very careful about what he hears, and then he conveys it accurately. So you have to listen carefully, and then this way, when you repeat the story, you will be accurate in your description. And that's Emes, as opposed to somebody who's not listening carefully. We'll say Chas v'Shalom the opposite. Hagoyin Rabbi Abba Groisbard from Ponovich told about Rabbi Yerucham from the Mir that it was hard to tell him a story. So he would ask about all the details, what the person didn't even notice himself, because he wanted to know exactly what happened. I'm sure there was a toelis. So that's a man of truth. A man of truth wants to get to exactly what happened, and not just be'erech. Unfortunately, our society is built a great deal on speculation adding, subtracting from stories, unfortunately. And this is not only when you hear things, but also when you see things. Make sure to notice what you're saying, so that afterwards, when you repeat it, what you're saying is accurate. There's a concept called Chatzi Emes, half-truths. Half-truths are half-lies. Half-lies are lies. What's a lie? A lie is not the truth. So the moment the person is out of the realm of Emes Shlema, of complete truth, then unfortunately he's in the realm of untruth. The Torah says, Midvar Sheker Tirchak. Stay far away from falsehood, any amount. In Kelm, in the Beis HaTalmud in Kelm, Reb Simcha Zissel, one of the avodas was on the mid of Emes, and one of the Darkei Avodah L'Maisa was to be very careful when you speak. I love this. When they ask you what time it is, don't say, all right, you see your clock, it's 1:34. Say 1:35. No, it's not 1:35. It's 1:34. And if you're not sure, say it's approximately. Or here's another one. People say, I literally died. Or from people, I mamish died. No. I died is a metaphor. It's like, wow, I was really blown away. So you can say, oh, I died. Because it's a figure of speech. That's fine. Maybe. But I literally died? If you literally died, you wouldn't be telling me this story. It was mamish the dumbest thing I ever saw in my life. Really? Come on. Not mamish the dumbest thing. It was really dumb. Okay. Don't say it was mamish literally the dumbest thing I ever saw in my life. The dayik b'lishono. Nifla me'od. So that is a type of sheker that we have to be very careful to avoid. Our rabbis tell us in the tractate of Sota, on page 42a, that there are 4 kitos, there are 4 groups that do not receive the face of God's divine presence. Okay, you ready? Hold on tight. We have to avoid being in all these 4 groups. Kas leitzonim, scoffers, people who make light of important things. Kas shakronim, liars. Oh. Kas chanofim, flatters. And kas mesapre lashon hara. And the group of those people who speak slander. Kas haleitzonim dichsiv mashach yado es leitzitzim. Kas shakronim dichsiv doiver shkorim loikim leneged einoi. Kas chanofim dichsiv kilo lefanav chonev yavoi. Kas mesapre lashon hara dichsiv kilo kel chofetz reshaata lo yagurcha ra. So we bring a proof text for each of these categories to show that it's not just ret nicht stam in the Welt rein. He's not just making this up, but rather the Gemara is not making it up. But rather, the Gemara has a proof text. Sources: Hosea Zayin Hey. God draws his hand from the Leitzanim, one who speaks falsehood will not be established in front of my eyes. In other words, God will not, nothing to do with doiver shkolim, with liars. It's a verse in Psalms, Psalms, as I used to call it when I was a child. Chapter 101, verse 7. And then the group of flatterers is a verse from Job, chapter 13, verse 16. A flatterer will not come before God. And then the Misapre Lashon Hara from Tehillim 5:5. God is not a God who desires evil, which is referring to Lashon Hara. These 4 groups, Chazal defined, categorized together. Einan mekablot pnei hashechina. They do not receive the face of God's divine presence. And that's the emphasis in the pasuk. that you're not going to become in front of Hashem. Ki lo kel chafetz resha. You don't want this resha. So God doesn't want this person in front of Lo lefanav chanef yava. Dover shkam lo keneged. God doesn't want this person to be in front of him. It doesn't say ein lam chelik leilam haba, because maybe they do have a chelik leilam haba, but could be that they're there, but they can't be makabel pnei hashchina. So it's like, you know what I mean? They're at the game, but they're in the penalty box, sort of thing. You know, let's say you go to the White House. Let's say you like the president. Most from Yidden these days are not enamored with with Mr. President. But let's say you really like the president, really great, Israel-loving, conservative value type president, and you get invited and you like him, and you get invited to the White House, and you're in the White House, you're in the palace, but he will not receive you. He's in his office, he will not receive you. That's the people. They can get to Olam Haba, but if they're a member of these four groups, they don't go into the they can't go in the king is not going to receive them. That's God's face, God's pnimius kaviyachol, God's hashpah. It could be the person's going to get hana from the Shechina, but they're not makabel the pnimius of the Shechina. So therefore we have to avoid, again, these four groups, which are today extremely common. Oh, Shakaranim, forget about it. Chanafim, we spoke in the previous year that everybody is lies at times, unless you really work hard on yourself. And Chanafim, people who say Chanufa, all over. Lashon Hara is especially ubiquitous today. Unfortunately, but given social media, you know, it's spread around. And Leitzanim, people who make light of important things, of chush of things, very, very common. So we're living in such a world, we have to be careful to keep our distance. So what is the common denominator of these four things that they're not makabel pnei hashchina? And why ain't makabel pnei hashchina, not ein lam chelik lo lam haba? The common denominator of all of these four categories is that they are all predicated on falsehood. And Hashem, His chosam, His insignia, is truth, as the Talmud teaches in Tractate Shabbos on page 55. Dover shkarim lo yikon leneged einav. One who speaks falsehood will not be established in front of Hashem's eyes. Anybody who's got a zika, who's got a shaykhus, who has a relationship with sheker, so can't be near Hashem, who's Emes. How are all four related to sheker? So kasa shakaranim, obviously, they're liars. You don't have to. That doesn't require explanation. Kata leitzanim is also sheker, because what does a person do? As Rabbeinu Yonah writes in Sharei Tshuva 3:176, Shaloeg tamid ledvarim lepulos vein daito lahavzos ba'aleim ach marchik advarim shein larchikum u'marchik toelas hapulos sheish tikva leto'altam. In other words, he negates through his islotus, through his clowning around, he negates important things. As Maran Rosh HaYeshiva, Rav said, the Pachad Yitzchak, famous Maimer in the Pachad Yitzchak, talking about the late sons of Amalek. Have you ever heard any Amalek jokes recently? They're not funny guys, those Nazis, those Amalekites. So why is Amalek called late sonim in Chazal? Late tako pesiyarim, late tak is a clown gets hit, gets smitten, is talking about Amalek. In pesiyarim, a fool becomes wise, talking about Jethro. So the question is, what's the late sons of Amalek? Amalek takes Am Yisrael, it's like a boiling hot bathtub, people are afraid of Am Yisrael, and they cool it off. They say, nothing to worry about, and they wage war against us. So that's sheker, taking important values and devaluing them as sheker. What does Moraine of Rabbeinu say? The Lutzato, they call him. The Heilige Ramchal, in the 5th chapter of the Mesilat Yesharim, when he talks about Leitzonus. Ki ne'aschoku ma'abed es leiv ha'adam, ad shekvar ein atam v'adei ha'moisheles bo. V'reu kishikor shoteh, asher i efshar latet lehem or ma'ol hanigam, ki einam mekablim hanaga. Forget about it. Person's a clown. He just clowns around. So he's like a drunk person. He's like a person who has extremely limited level of intelligence. You can't talk to him. You try to reason with him. You try to rationalize with him. You try to explain things to him, and he doesn't listen. He just makes a big joke out of it. Like comedians. Comedians get up. They make fun of religion. They make fun of God. They make fun of life and death. It's all a big joke. The whole thing is a big. They're always just looking for a laugh. That's all that matters. The laugh, and they make fun of the things that are the holiest. Oftentimes, and therefore people think, oh, so these things don't make it. It's a big joke. It's a big joke. It's a big joke. So you don't have to take it seriously, and you do have to take it seriously, and that's the sheker. That's the falsehood. One leitzanis pushes away 100 rebukes. In other words, if you have rebuke comes to the word to prove, you're trying to prove to the person how what he's doing is incorrect. So if a person makes a leitzanis, you give 100 proofs why he's wrong, and then one joke diffuses the whole thing. Kasach hanafim is also sheker. He wants to get some sort of favor, so he speaks nicely about people who are we have to talk more about chanufa because it's a very serious aveira I see all over the place. So hopefully, od chazon l'moed, we'll get there. But it's sheker, praising these evil people. And kas mesapre lashon hara is also a type of falsehood, because we feel that we're great when we lower somebody else, and that's the falsehood. Gemara says there's no real hana in saying lashon hara. You're just speaking. It's not like there's hana of eating. Eating is great hana. It's biologically tested hana. Fulfilling the mitzvah, which brings to procreation. There's hana. It's undeniable. What's the hana in speaking lashon hara? So Rav Dessler, Zecher Tzadik Levracha, says that the hana is that the person tells himself there's no real hana, but the hana is an imaginary, illusory hana. That he says, if I lower him, I'm going to raise myself. No, you're not really measuring yourself. You're lowering the other guy. And the person who's is lowering the other guy and feeling good on his cheshbon. So that's dimyan. So that's people whose lives are based on sheker. The Gemara compares misapre lashon hara to the snake. Right, the snake, the whole thing of the snake was sheker in the Garden of Eden. So these people, their lives are all based on falsehood, and they're not makabel pnei hashchina. And we're not just talking about somebody who one time he spoke lashon hara or said a shtika leitzanis. No, we're talking about people their whole life is predicated on these 4 midos, ros me'od. And God is a God of truth. Says Moreinu v'Rabbeinu v'Mo'oreinenu the Maharal. Dalet kitais hem b'choikim me'amitas mitziusoi asher hu yisbarach mechuyev ha'mitzius. Every mitzius could or could not be. I could exist and could not exist. God must exist. That's what it means, mechuyev ha'mitzius. When we talk about these arba kitos, they're not roim pnei hashchina ki apanim hu amitas mitzius hadavar. It's the truth. That's what we said, panim milashon pnimius. That's the truth of this mitzias. These people are living in the world of sheker. Hashem is Emes, so they're not makabel the pnimius of the Shekhinah, of Hashem's Emes, because they're living lives of falsehood. If you want to be in Hashem's mechitza, if you want to be with Hashem, you want to be makabel panav, you have to be a man of truth and not to live in the world of imagination. So Mirz Hashem, Moriv Rabbeisai, we have a lot more to talk about. But the Yesod HaDvarim is to be dovek b'midas ha'emes. Also when you learn Mussar, to be dovek b'emes, not to get defensive, to learn Mussar and say, look honestly and sincerely at your milos. That's the A of Mussar. The A, B, C, D, E, F, G of Mussar. And then the H, I, J, K is also looking at your chesronos. Seeing things b'emes, and then you can work on yourself. And not to live in the world of demyonis, of imagination, imagining not having what we call today self-awareness. Self-awareness is the A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And self-awareness is the meat of Emes. A lot of people, very hard for them. Very hard. They lack self-confidence. They lack self-esteem. So if they see a chesaron, say, oh, they're not going to like themselves anymore. They're going to get down. And then you lost it. You have to feel great about yourself. You have to know b'shvili nivra olam. You have to know that you have a neshama elokit. You have a godly soul. You have to know that there was never anyone like you in the world of history, and there never will be anybody like you in world history. You have to know that there's nobody as unique as you, as special as you in the world. You have to know that you have a special chelek and megala kvod shemayim in the world. And now that you're on this incredibly high pedestal, you're standing on a pedestal which is on the ground, and your head is already in the clouds. You're so high up, and then you say, "Oh, wait a second! I have a little bit of an agia sometimes of kavod, taiva, of kina, this and you work on it. You learn Mussar, you work on it, and then that's the living in the world of truth." Right, Rabbi Isai? This is phenomenal. It's an avodah. It has to bring to Maisa. This is not just intellectual and abstract. It has to be real, and Mirz Hashem, we should be zocha to go maila in this midah and all midas types. So please stay tuned for more, and Mirz Hashem, we're going to see incredible insight into this midah, which helps us come close to our Creator. Thank you so much for joining. Shalom, shalom, sweetie.